call to order the Monday, November the 18th, 2024, regular scheduled City of Clemson Planning Commission meeting. The meeting is being live streamed on the city's YouTube channel and recorded as well. The Planning Commission, just for your information, is a volunteer committee appointed by City Council and serves as an advisory board in the planning and development of our city. We're not employees of the city. At this time, I'd like to introduce our commissioners. We have Commissioner Fred Burton. We have Commissioner Jennifer Thaxton. We have Commissioner John Crowley. We have Vice Chair Greg Rice. We have Commissioner Tanya Hyatt. And we have Commissioner Matt Carenzas. I am Herb Tyler, and I chair the committee. Also, I'd like to introduce our administrative staff from planning. First and foremost, we have Nathan Woods, who is in charge of the department. We have Art Holbrooks, city planner. We have Aaron O'Kelly, who helped us set up tonight, and we have Kelly Roche. And we really appreciate what y'all do to make these meetings function. Thank you all for being here. We have a quorum. At this time, we're going to open our public session. And a reminder to everybody, this is a time where you can address the commission regarding matters within the purview of this committee that are not on the agenda. So this session can be up to 15 minutes total, and each speaker may speak for up to 3 minutes. Speakers can prepare, if they have prepared copies, that they want things attached to agenda, to the meeting notes. You can provide those, and that would be done. So, do we have, at this time, the public session is open. Is there anybody that would like to address the commission? Nobody? Are there any through My Civic app, any letters, questions, comments, whatsoever? So seeing none, going once, going twice, we will close the public comment session. So we're going to move on to the adoption of minutes from our September 9th, 2024 regular meeting. Have all the commissioners had the opportunity to review the minutes? Are there any edits, omissions that are noted? Seeing none, do I have a motion for adoption?
I so move.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
So we have a motion to adopt the minutes. All in favor, raise your right hand. Bassett, 100%?
I'm going to recuse myself since I wasn't at the meeting.
Okay. So Greg will recuse himself. So with that, there are no action items tonight. Advisory items? Do we have any advisory items?
No advisory.
No advisory items tonight. So at this time, I'd like to call up Mr. Nathan Woods to give a status on the comprehensive plan update.
Yeah, I'm gonna come to the podium. I feel
Yes.
more formal. I don't like sitting here because I can't.
Well, and then everybody can hear you better.
Yeah, it picks up a little better. I know that I have relationships with most of you, and and what I have learned about myself is I'm called an extroverted introvert or something like that, which means I'm introverted most of the time, but if I'm around you and like you, I can talk for days. I don't know what illusion I'm making here, but I am Very passionate about planning, very passionate about the comprehensive plan process. It's one of the reasons I came to Clemson. Just a little bit of background for those of you that haven't said this before. I grew up in a small town in East Tennessee that is almost to the person, the same population as Clemson. I didn't know anything about urban planning. My degree's in something totally irrelevant to that in undergrad, and I was walking around New York City one time traveling, and I was like, this is a whole lot better constructed space-wise than my hometown. And so started studying what that was about, literally Google search, stumbled on urban planning, struggled through the GRE, went to Clemson, and here I am as your planning director. So lucky all you guys for after all that. What I want to address tonight is, like many of you that subsequently contacted me after the fact, I was surprised to read a recent op-ed concerning the comprehensive plan titled Why Transparency Matters. There are a number of issues with that editorial, including what appears to be an overall misunderstanding of the comprehensive plan's role for a community, alleged confusion about where we are in that plan, and in that process, and a misconstruction of the South Carolina state statutes that govern the comprehensive plan. So doing something like this is not my favorite thing to do, responding to something, but I felt it was worth some of the phone calls that I received after. It was worth taking 10 minutes to address some of the issues mentioned in that article. I'll start with perhaps most disappointing with that was that the editorial abandoned its own calls for transparency by not mentioning that the author did not reach out to me or Jacob or any member of my staff prior to printing that or asking us for an update on this commission's progress. The author and others have my number, email address, and have met with me or my staff numerous times in the past, and I'm uncertain as to why they chose to go that route or contact those that could provide an update about where we are in that plan before claiming it was opaque. Planning, so this is where I'm gonna get into nuts and bolts. Planning and zoning, and by extension, the comprehensive planning process, are some of the most mundane functions of city government. The processes are black and white based on longstanding state law, South Carolina Code 6-29-510. To be clear, there is no way for a city to legally circumvent the planning process, plan elements, or process of adopting a comprehensive plan. Our current comprehensive plan, as many of you know, is over 400 pages. The 2019 comprehensive plan is repetitive, it is disorganized, and it contradicts itself in several areas. It is not user-friendly for staff, and it is unapproachable to most citizens. Prior to my arrival, City Council tasked the Planning Commission and planning staff with developing a concise, clear, and easily communicable new comprehensive plan. To that end, the editorial correctly stated that in June 2023, we hired a consultant firm to help us construct that plan. For the past year, that firm, in conjunction with staff, has been systematically reviewing stacks of old Clemson comprehensive plans alongside other plans, including Parks and Recreation Master Plan, the Bikeways Master Plan, the Downtown Corridor Plan, Clemson Next, the Uptown White Paper, all of our existing plan developments, et cetera, in order to create a new product based on the city's built history that is accessible to staff, council, and citizens of Clemson. In November 2023, we kicked off that process. Many of you were there by hosting consultants in Clemson. During that visit, they met with each city department, held interviews with key community stakeholders, and hosted a business community workshop. That same month, November 2023, the online community questionnaire went live on November 15th. And on November 15th, the consultants held a steering committee workshop. As you know, the steering committee for the comprehensive plan is made up of current members of City Council and the Planning Commission. On March 12th of 2024, a community visioning workshop was held. The city advertised the workshop through all of its normal channels, including this time trash can hangers, and invoked a large social media push prior to the meeting. At this meeting, citizens completed a mapping exercise and detailed various likes and dislikes they had about Clemson's built environment. The op-ed incorrectly states that the meeting was canceled and not rescheduled. Many of you that I'm staring at were there. A separate full steering committee meeting was scheduled prior to that workshop that evening was canceled. That is because planning staff missed the meeting advertisement window, and we were made aware of this mistake just hours prior to the meeting, and I personally called and asked members of this commission and the city council to miss the meeting so that we would not have a prohibited quorum. A handful of city council members and planning commission members still attended that meeting. Those that weren't were told that they could meet with my staff and the consultants via Zoom at their convenience to give input. Several chose this path. Post-workshop, consultants and staff began to compile an existing conditions document. On March 27th, 2024, the steering committee members and the planning commission were provided with a 69-page existing conditions memorandum. Though it will not be part of the final comprehensive plan, the memorandum presents the city of Clemson's existing conditions and discusses their influence on the comprehensive planning process. Planning commission and city council members took April to review the memorandum and met via Zoom on the days of May 9th and May 10th, 2024 to discuss the document with planning staff and the consultants. The minutes from the July 8th, 2024 Planning Commission convey that the author of the op-ed expressed concerns with the comprehensive plan workshops and surveys, stating that they offered the public too little opportunity for input, also asked for an update on how citizens might get involved. I replied that the link to the survey was on the banner of the city's website and noted that blast emails and trash can hangers had also been used. I also said that Mr. Tyler and I were planning to conduct neighborhood zoning meetings. The minutes from the August 5th, 2024 City Council meeting convey that a council member asked for the current comprehensive status of the comprehensive plan. The existing condition report of 60 pages was again referenced. Planning Commission Chairman Herb Tyler and Nathan will be holding public in-person meetings over the next month around town to discuss next steps. 6 zoning discussion meetings were then held where the comprehensive plan was discussed. Those were held between August 27th and September 9th. During that same time, staff and consultants met online several times to discuss the vision, goals, and preliminary land use element. We received the first draft of that document on Tuesday, August 6, 2024. Unfortunately, around that same time, a candidate social media post regarding student housing implied that the planning staff had intentionally provided the Planning Commission with bad information. While the post may have been flippant, it confirmed that ordinary planning decisions and by extension the comprehensive planning process would be politicized throughout the campaign season. Subsequent to that post, and after discussing this with others, conferring with our consultants about similar situations in other locales, the Planning Commission Chair and I chose to delay further steering committee meetings scheduled for October and November until after the election. The op-ed states in paragraph 6 that to date, no survey results have been provided. This is correct. The survey is still very much alive. To date, we have 275 responses. This is much less than we would like. This comes after 3 rounds of hang tags on trash cans with QR codes showing you to the survey. It comes after countless rounds of Facebook ads, Instagram posts, and the banner being on the city's website for over a year. The quote from a former Planning Commission member asserting that the city is relying almost completely on an external consultant to write the plan with the input they received very early in the process is incorrect and ignores feedback received from this commission and the hard work of the planning staff and interns. The article incorrectly claims that the comprehensive plan is due for approval in December 2024. The State Planning Act requires plans to be reviewed by the Planning Commission, in quotes, not less than once every 5 years, and updated, in quotes, at least every 10 years. Our current plan was originally adopted in 2014 and was reviewed and updated in 2019. So while we would only be due for a review to review it again this year, we are instead updating/rewriting it several years earlier than required by the state. In 2019, the Planning Commission spent many hours going through the document and drafting changes to the document that were ultimately adopted by council as an update. They not only reviewed the document, but also significantly changed the document's content in a number of locations to bring it closer in line with their current opinions and goals. As a result, by any definition, that plan was updated. I have confirmed this association with the MASC. The state allows jurisdictions to do as many reviews and updates as they want, when they want, as long as they meet the requirement to update the plan, in quotes again, at least every 10 years. The intent here is to clearly reset the clock. Otherwise, that requirement will not have included the words, again in quotes, at least. The 2019 comprehensive plan was signed on December 16, 2019, providing the current commission and staff ample time to create a plan that is concise and reflects the needs of our community. I believe strongly that it is more important to get the plan right than to get it done quickly. One definition of clarity is freedom from ambiguity. Planning staff is available to address your concerns and to answer your questions about the comprehensive plan whenever you have them. That goes for planning commission, city council, and the general public at large. This is our job, we work for you, and to just suggest that we were purposely hiding this information is not being transparent and is irresponsible. A document detailing where we are, future opportunities for public involvement, and where we've been will be provided to each of you as soon as I get done here. A draft version of the vision, goals, and the future land use map will be emailed to each of you by the end of the month. Our ask is that once received, you would take time to look over this document during the holidays, and that you would be prepared to refocus your comprehensive planning efforts at work sessions, workshops, and community meetings beginning in January. I apologize that I had to take this time to do this, but I felt it was important given the article that many of you called me about. And I'm going to give you that sheet of paper now, but before I do, I'm open for any questions that you might have.
Is that timeline also being provided to
Yep,
residents?
it's on the back right here.
Online?
I can put it online, yep, if you'd like me to.
What was,
I said I can if you would like me to, absolutely. I haven't posted this online yet, no.
well, I was just thinking if it's a timeline of what we've done up until
Yep.
this point, it might be good to provide that
No, I think that's a good idea.
on our city website.
Yep, we can do that. And then we'll put it on the comprehensive plan link website as well. Anyone
So
else?
one of the things, yes, I do. One of the things in there also that I would like to address is the author misrepresented the fact that they had reached out to me with no comment. In fact, the author did reach out to me, and the author reached out to me on Thursday, October the 17th at 3:49 p.m. October 17th at 6:28 p.m., I responded to them, told them I would love to meet them, get together, and give them a timeline of what was going on with the comprehensive plan. I heard nothing. The next Tuesday, October 22nd at 7:05 a.m., I messaged the author and told them that I wanted to follow up on their request because every single request that comes to us, no matter who they are, is very, very important to address. Told them that I'd like to get together. I did not hear back to them until later that morning, and they ignored the ability for me to contact and to meet with them in person and wanted me to send them something in writing. That is not how this works. Politicalization of the comprehensive plan, misinformation, utilization, whether it's through current planning commissions, we take an oath to separate ourselves from council and from politics. To me, this is uncharacteristic. I had offered and made myself available anytime during that period of time to do that, and that is the truth. And my texts are available to confirm that. That misinformation and throughout this past political process has included much information that is totally false and could have been cleared up by even some of the candidates who were running, and they chose not to do that. This committee takes an oath not to discuss things that are before us that we know with other people outside of this, and that did not happen. It was discussed, and that is not acceptable. So that's the comment I wanted to make. And I can show that as everybody else, but I don't feel that I need to. We have a responsibility to honor the oath that we've taken.
Yep, I'll provide these to you, but seriously, our door is open. Art's door is always open. Mine's closed sometimes because I'm on phone calls, but Jacob, who couldn't be here tonight, we all take this very, very seriously. I'm saddened that during this process it has been, made like we're not professionals or anything. I mean, there's almost 60 years of planning experience downstairs, and for me, this is a dream job. I'll go ahead and say that. Like, I love this job. Art loves his job. We're here to serve you, and so even Kelly. I'm just kidding. But we're here for you guys. And if you have any questions, most of you have my personal cell phone. If not, you've got my work cell phone. I've got multiple emails. You can mail me a letter if you need to. I'm here to give you correct information, and that's what I plan to continue to do.
Well,
Thank you.
I just also want to say that we appreciate what you do, Art and Nathan and Jacob, and I think what you do is very valuable. It's accurate. You do not lead us in one direction or another. You're pretty honest and upfront with the information that you provide without bias. And so I appreciate that. And I was part of your interview process. You're very well qualified for the position. So I'm confident and comfortable with you in your role. And I just read that op-ed as just more lies that were published, so I didn't pay much attention to it.
Commissioner Rice?
Yeah, no, again, thank you for giving an update on that timeline for the record this evening, so that's out there. I agree with Commissioner Hyatt that I think it would be a good idea, transparency,
Yep.
to have that out there for the public to be able to see that. And thank you guys publicly for what you do, all of the staff. I deal with a lot of governmental agencies for what I do with my personal career. And I will say by far that the planning department for the city of Clemson, anytime I've called, I've been able to speak with someone. And if my answer was not able to be, or my question was not able to be answered immediately on that phone call, I had a call back within an hour. And I'm sure you guys don't just do that for me since I sit on this commission. I know you do it for the entire community, and I appreciate that very much. And you guys should be thanked, not thrown under the bus throughout our local media because of political activities. So thank y'all for what you do.
We just want to stay out of it and get back to planning. So that's what we're.
And you guys do an excellent job, and we thank you for it.
Thank you, guys.
So, were there any other comments? Just wanted to make sure. Any other updates? One other point of clarity, and it's because of the political season. I was asked a question, and rightly so. I think anytime we're asked a question, and particularly your chair, we're supposed to investigate that. And if there's something that might not be right, or something in question, it falls upon the duty of the chair and vice chair to look into it to find out, is it correct or is it not correct? And so Commissioner Crowley had texted me one day and we talked on the phone. And after we talked on the phone, he had brought up a meeting on 4/8. So I want to go all the way back to 4/8. Which is April 8th. This was on September the 13th that he contacted me. And there was a discussion when we were talking about changing the zoning for Cedarwood Apartments and for some of the townhomes around there. At 128 during that information session, this was just a discussion item. Jacob was presenting to us and being peppered with all kind of different questions about different things during that time. The need of why we needed to do from one zoning all the way to RM4. And when we looked into it, what I would tell you is that the subject matter was rezoning a group of those non-conforming properties. The issues that we discussed at that period of time with a non-conforming property, if there was a fire or something like that, what would happen to it? And the reason for that was to make sure things were brought into compliance and people could rebuild. One of the things that happened inadvertently is it stated that a single-family non-conforming residential structure could be rebuilt with special exemption, but not multifamily. And that was a reference to RM2. RM2, certainly our zoning administrator knows what RM2 is, which includes townhomes that can be multifamily. The difference is the subject properties at Ligon Street do not conform to townhomes because each of them is individually owned and they're more like apartment structures. When looking at this, the reason that it was brought to us as RM4 is because of the nonconformity and them being more like apartments that are individually owned. And so to answer that question, and I appreciate Commissioner Crowley bringing that to my attention, one of the things that he had mentioned is that there is in our code, section E, where it says a special exception for non-conforming property in RM1 and RM2, people can apply for a special exception through the Board of Architectural Review, or Board of Zoning Appeals, excuse me. The problem with that is applying, you may be granted and you may not be granted. When this was taken to City Council, they wanted a process in place until zoning has been reevaluated throughout all the city to take a look at what we have here. That is the reason for it. So basically what should have been stated, single-family zoning allows for non-conforming structures to apply for a rebuild with special exemption, but it's not true for structures in RM3, RM 3.5, and RM4 multifamily zoning. It was inadvertently made. I can tell you that it was taken very seriously when checking with the zoning officials, or Jacob, and with Nathan. However, based on what the intent and what we were trying to do, in fact, it was not intended in any way to be misleading whatsoever. So that's all the way back at 4.8, and hopefully that answers your question that you had. I did want to address this in a public meeting. One of the things that I did not want to do, and I would publicly state this here, is I became uncomfortable around that time of meeting to discuss these things, particularly when things were becoming political. This is not a political committee, and I felt uncomfortable during that process because a lot of information, not saying that Commissioner Crowley would, but a lot of information was getting out there that was wrong, and being transparent is best to address that here. Does that answer the question, or is there anything else about that that you would like to know?
No, I mean, my question was mainly that, since that was the discussion that led into the rezoning, that if it had been stated, I guess the way it was written, that those people currently had the same protection that any non-conforming property in a residential neighborhood would have, which they do, because the other law, this thing that we recommended hasn't been passed yet. The discussion on the rezoning and then therefore sending that forward, we may have looked at simply amending this process versus a rezoning recommendation. My whole point in all of that was that had we had the proper information at that point, the discussion may have gone a different way. That was all I was trying to point out, was that it was nothing on anybody's fault. It just came out that way, but I took it as, okay, these people aren't protected. You're offering this as a protection, and the conversation moved forward that way, versus if we say, okay, they're protected the same as the R20s and R12s are, but you have to go through this special exemption, we may have gotten into a more detailed conversation of, is that the exact same process as anybody applying for a regular variance, or is it a different process? If it's a different process, what's different about it? What are the complications? Because it seemed to be presented at the rezoning, when we talked about it in May, that they currently had zero protection, and there was absolutely nothing they could do if something happened.
And that is a true statement, because they're apartment buildings and it did not cover, in that zoning in section E did not cover it. And at the public hearing, city council wanted something temporarily because of an act of God that was not making people jump through hoops within that zoning for people to get an appeal and make it too hard for them to do that. There's no way they could do it within the time frame that was in that statute at that point.
And people could vote no, right, for
Yes.
the appeal?
That's right.
Right, but that's what I'm saying, is that was all I was saying, is I think it would have been good to have this discussion based on that, to find out, is it the same process as a standard variance? If it's not, because I know with the new ordinance that we recommended to go forward for the architectural review district, they can grant waivers and stuff for properties and that, but it's an amended process. It's not the same thing as a standard application would go through because of this. And that's all I was trying to figure out. And I'm just for clarification, because the way I read this, it says that those apartments did have the option to apply for the variance the same as a residential one would, because it says any duly residential structure located in R2012, RM1, or RM2 is provided that protection. And that apartment building would be a residential structure, would it not be?
Apartment isn't zoned RM2.
What? It doesn't say, it's any
Right.
duly permitted, legally non-conforming residential structure located in the RM 2012, like not what it would meet by definition of today's zoning, but as long as it's located in those districts, then they are provided the protection of applying. And this is what I'm saying, is where it's tricky, and I wasn't saying anybody did it, it was I just happened to mention, like, oh, hey, don't we have grandfathering for this? And it came back, oh, that doesn't apply to multifamily. And I see how that happened, because it's a multifamily building. But according to this, the way that I read it, since it's located in RM1, it would be provided that protection. And I'm not trying to argue what we've did. I'm comfortable.
Right.
We voted on it and discussed everything moving forward. I was just trying to bring up something for a point of clarification.
Sure.
To make sure that going forward, we always have the right information and details like that, because I feel like that could have possibly led us to that. Well, shouldn't we just modify this, or should we do this, or should we that, especially with the comp plan coming up versus recommending a rezoning of, let's just modify this, or maybe it doesn't need it. Is this the same process as a variance? That was the only thing I was trying to do. And I don't know if Nathan, if you have.
No, I would have to, I would want to confer with Jacob. I mean, I know where you're tracking. I'd want to confer with Jacob to.
Because I see both sides of it, of, oh, it's a multifamily and this doesn't apply, but the way I read it, it doesn't say anything. It says as long as it's located, as long as the nonconformity is located in one of those districts, that they can apply for it. And this one is located in the RM1 district currently.
Yeah, I think the thought process was that applying for it is not a guarantee that it would happen. And so
Right, I understand.
that's where that,
Right, I understand that. It was stated that it was not, that only the single family was covered and not the multifamily,
right, yeah.
which would imply a slightly different scenario.
I
And
don't,
it's-
I understand what you're saying. I think the part that gets me is that when they apply, we're not guaranteeing that anything will happen. And I think that part is what doesn't sit well with me, because we don't know what day it's gonna fall on the Board of Zoning Appeals and how many people are gonna show up and how they're gonna feel about something. And I think that's the part that I'm uncomfortable with, not really knowing.
Right, I'm not arguing going back and undoing anything that we've done.
Okay.
That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm
Yeah,
completely.
you just want, for the record.
Right,
let's
that
talk
the next time an issue comes up that's
Yeah.
discussed, I think that, I mean, I don't know how anybody else feels here, and I'm not gonna ask you to poll the audience or anything like that, but if it would have been presented that way, I feel like I would have at least asked, is this the same process as a standard variance, or is it a modified process that's offered a certain, and gotten into that, because while it says it's an application, it might be one of those things where, yes, you just have to fill out the piece of paper and it goes through, and as long as they hold the meeting and you say, I've got my check and I'm gonna rebuild, you're approved. Versus, no, you have to show this test and this test and this test, and you have to pass all the three.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I was trying to point out with this, was that going forward, because this is one that's, like, it's not very clear right now to anybody sitting in here, and we all deal with this stuff on a regular basis, whether I'm interpreting it one way, it's open interpretation from other people. I just think that it was, going back and rewatching that, it was just a back and forth. I just happened to say, oh, doesn't our code offer a grandfather protection for this? And it was, oh, no, that's only for single family, it's not for multifamily. Okay, and I get how that happened, because it's a multifamily thing, and I think during the vote in May, Jennifer may have even pointed to the RM1 and 2 on there, and I was like, oh no, because it's a multifamily, it doesn't apply. Just with the thinking of Jacob had said, it doesn't apply, so I'm just saying that stuff like that going forward, it would be helpful to make sure that we're clear, because it may steer the decisions and discussions a slightly different way.
Yeah, I understand what you're thinking now better too, so I'll confer with Jacob and maybe he can give us a report next time on how to clarify that.
And I guess if we're sitting here this time next year or shortly thereafter,
Right.
a lot of that will be cleared up, hopefully.
Yeah, I think a full zoning code rewrite will take a lot of time, for certain, because I think Bob Brookover said is what we've done in the past is we've passed comp plans, but we've never actually, and we've changed land use maps a little bit, but we've never done a zoning code rewrite after it to follow that. And so then what happens is you might get a comp plan that folks like, and then you can't enact it because the zoning doesn't match it. So what you wind up with are 24 PDs, variances, and we, asking for variances. Historically, and Art can correct me if I'm wrong, but the city of Clemson is not, communities I worked in before granted variances often. We are a community that doesn't do that typically. It's a very atypical situation that we would issue a variance, which is not right or wrong. We hold fast to that, though. You have to meet a hardship, where some communities look at that looser, and I'm not saying one's right or the other, but that's just how we've handled it historically. So I definitely think that, yeah, hopefully, I'm not saying it's ever going to be perfect, but it'll be easier to understand.
Thank you.
I think the other thing, did that clear it up the best as possible?
It did. I just want to make sure that the question that I raised with you was
Sure.
clear to everybody, because it's one of those things where if instead of recommending rezoning just that one property, then we may have said, hey, this is a problem for everybody. Why don't we go ahead and look at a broader solution if this is that? Because, I mean, I can think of, the Grange is 100% non-compliant right now. There's, and this is just, and that's a whole neighborhood that just got adopted in. So there's plenty of those out there, and like we talked about, there's a lot. It may have been something that instead of sending forward a recommendation to rezone, we may have shifted conversation on to something else. And that was the only thing I was looking at, because, yeah, if they had gone through with the rezoning, that solves for them, but then left everybody else out.
Well, and to clear that up, where we are now, council did not go with that. They charged us to come back with something that was immediate protection. And that's what we came back with to send them, and then hopefully we get zoning in. Traditionally, if you look at it, I've spent a lot of time. I'm the only person that I know that has read both comp plans 2014 and 2019 from cover to cover, and have spent a lot of time doing that. I think this comp plan needs to be specific, measurable, actionable, reasonable, and time-bound. And the ones that we have that are 475 pages had unrealistic goals, and totally unrealistic goals for people to do, and for the betterment of our city where people can understand it, because everybody matters. Every single person matters. There's still a lot of things in the comp plan that some people may want. However, there are 9 other criteria out there beside that. If it's not economically feasible, there's certain things that we can't do. And so it is a huge effort, and we appreciate. So what I would encourage you to do, if you're a resident of the city, please go ahead and take the survey that's online. If you're not comfortable online, all you need to do is come to Planning Codes. We have hard copies. We pass those out at the zoning meetings and things like that. But where we are now is that the city council, who ultimately has a decision over everything, if we recommend or not, has come back and said they wanted something temporarily done that is very easy for people to get through. And I think that's what we've done and what they will be seeing going to there. So I appreciate everybody. I hope you understand my being uncomfortable during the election process with all the things that have happened, not to be able to ensure the integrity of this body. Also, the State Ethics Commission requires that this body be separate from council, even though we're appointed by council. It also requires that if we are asked questions and we know something about it, that we can only say, come to this public hearing and you can learn it. It is nothing that a discussion can take place of. That's the oath that we all signed. So I appreciate that. Any other representation at council meetings?
No, nope.
Okay. The future workshops you just discussed, and we'll be getting that. We'll be getting a time schedule out to everyone. There's plenty of time for that to be able to happen. And then any other events?
No, not that I know.
Okay. The one I'd like to talk about, I can tell you there are a lot of people we had a lot of positive feedback about being in the community. So one of the things that we're working on now is specifically what is zoning and how does that enhance a comprehensive plan. You hear more in this election about comprehensive plan, but the comprehensive plan is only as good as the changing data of the 10 criteria or the 11 that are in Clemson. The 11th one is a town and gown relationship. It's only as good as we keep up with what it is. And so it needs to be a fluid document. But zoning is where people miss of how to make that reality. Seeing that, is there a motion?
I'd like to mention one other thing real quick before we adjourn this evening.
Yes.
Nathan, I believe you said when you were giving your report that we have 276 surveys that's been returned.
Yeah, it's in that neighborhood.
Give or take.
It's less than 300.
We'll say approximately 275. To me, for that to be out for a year and it's still up on the website, is that correct?
Yeah.
I would encourage everyone within the community, those that are here this evening, Those that are watching online, anything that may get reported in the media, I'd encourage everyone from seniors to students. A lot of people don't think that the students' voices count within the city, but you all are residents of our city as well, if you live within the city limits. I'd encourage everyone to get online, fill that survey out, so all the voices can be heard in our community.
And I think there was confusion. There were so many surveys going out that I think people think they may have completed that. So they really just need, if we've only got 276, you need to go in again and just complete it again. I mean, honestly.
Certainly, one of the things that I have a canned talk that I give to civic group, which Greg's heard multiple times, but I'll be doing some more of that to just focus on more comprehensive planning stuff. Herb will be with me some and then do his own thing some too, but we're gonna try and take, another thing we've provided, which is we've also blasted in social media, is that if you don't have the ability to do it online, we'll give you a paper copy. You can print it out and we'll actually go in and data entry my staff will on our own. And we've had 10 of those taken advantage of, so.
Have you all, do y'all have a meeting scheduled at Clemson Downs? Because a lot of times
Not
those
yet, but
residents are
yeah.
isolated, and it would be good to have
Yeah,
a paper, something that they can fill out at a meeting.
absolutely, yeah, that's good. Yeah, we'll provide that for sure.
We'll make that happen.
Okay.
Anybody? Anything else? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you very much.
Thank you.